This Danish demon has been demolishing lobbies, whether it's on your team, on the enemy team. Somehow people are finding insane value on Freya. Okay, I'm joking. The hero has a relatively pretty high skill floor and skill ceiling, and it takes the right person to make Freya pop off. I played against a lot of bad Freyas and a very small handful of good Freyas, but that does not mean that there is something that is wrong, that isn't wrong with the hero's kit, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Hello everybody, welcome to the Nerf Freya rant. As you guys know, this is a series that we do on the channel here where we rant about the state of a character when they're OP, and we try to give healthy suggestions in order to bring the character into a spot where they are strong but they are not as powerful as they were before. So Freya is culprit number one for this season. She is an insane standout, very damn good in coordinated play, and you can certainly make her work in ranked. You're definitely going to feel places where you won't be able to make her work in the solo queue or even duo queue environment. However, you know, the fact is the character is very strong, and there's only very few things overtuned about her. But before we get into Freya, let's talk about her kit really quickly. The number one standout for Freya was the buffs that they gave her in this past few like little, you know, hotfix patches, and that was basically they made it so that the quick dash was on a 3.5 second recovery time in terms of cooldown, and updraft got brought down to about 10 seconds because it was a very long cooldown time. It took a bit too much to come back, right? So the updraft buff, the updraft buff was understandable. However, the quick dash buff was a little bit too much per se, and perhaps this was Blizzard jumping the gun a little bit too early, because there is a good argument to be made that Freya will be like Sojourn, where in the low elos people may not find as much value on Freya compared to high elo, and that's completely justified because the character does have a high skill floor and a high skill ceiling, so she's not going to be easy to just like pick up and play. Maybe there's some people out there that are talented across multiple characters and they will pick her up and make her work just fine. Like me personally, I'm somebody who has a lot of experience on characters like Genji, Hanzo, Echo, Pharah. So when I picked up Freya, she just felt like home, and she's honestly been my most favorite character since Ana. Honestly, I really love this character, but I can't deny that she's in a little bit of a silly spot. So the real power shift that came in was when quick dashes, which are basically like her mid-air tracer blinks that let her use take aim over and over again, they got overtuned. I'm not going to lie. However, she kind of needed it because it was sometimes with the old quick dash and updraft, it was really hard to set yourself up for success. And this character's neutral gameplay with the left click, the rev draw crossbow, is kind of garbage. Her actual normal bolts that she shoots out, they're almost as bad as Life Weaver's left click, right? And the real strength of this character's kit is in take aim. To make matters much worse, her ultimate 90% of the time is useless. Yes, there's ways to use the ultimate and you're almost always trying to use it just for one kill, but the damage from the ultimate has a relatively pretty big fall off from the center, to the point where even I believe at the center it doesn't fully eliminate targets. They get left at like 1 HP. I'm not fully sure, but like in terms of using it, that's what it feels like. Not to mention that despite the bola shot being bolas, it doesn't CC the enemy. It just pulls them in, but they can still move, and they're just slowed by like I think 30%, and it's not that strong. Honestly, the ultimate is like, nobody complains about the ultimate, nobody complains about the primary fire. It's actually the take aim where the problem is. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm actually fine with the rest of the kit. I just think take aims is damage. This is actually more of a breakpoint problem rather than the entire kit problem. And this is actually a very healthy problem to have, because if your character is like pretty healthy to the point that it's just a numbers issue, it's really not that hard to solve. And honestly, Freya's case is not that bad either. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what is bad on Freya is the fact that her take aim body shots do 130 damage. That is a bit ridiculous, because if she lands 2 body shots onto you, 90% of the squishy roster is getting annihilated, right? Like 260 damage up front in the face. And if she lands a headshot with one of them, yikes. You see where I'm going with this, right? It hits like a brick wall. So, and not to mention, it's also very damn good at melting tanks, and in 6v6, my god, can you do some really scary shit with Freya in 6v6 on tanks as well, right? But that is implying that you exploit the character at the skill floor, we just spam into tanks and win over there, but you want to be a good duelist, a mid-range good duelist with her, right? So, Freya's problem is, in my opinion, this is a character you have to be a little bit more careful with, because at the end of the day, I don't mind having high skill floor and ceiling characters be a part of the meta. I think that's how it should be. Characters like Genji, Tracer, I even think Hanzo should be up there. The hit scans will argue that Widowmaker should be up there. So you know what? If us as projectile players give them Widow, and you know Freya's a projectile DPS hero, we get to keep Freya, right? Like we need an option too, in my opinion. Then there's characters like Pharah, Echo. You know, you can make slight arguments about them. Ashe, Cassidy, they kind of fall into, well, you know, they deserve to be strong because you need to aim and land shots in this shooter game where everybody's a different model and they're always jumping around. So it's like, okay, fine, I get it. So let's look at the breakpoints for Freya. So breakpoints for Freya, in my opinion, they should just nerf take aim down to about 110 to 120 damage and experiment with that and see how that goes. Don't touch the rest of her kit just yet. I think even left click is fine where it is right now because we're trying to keep take aim the hero fan. Like it does seem like the Blizzard is leading into take aim being the, you know, she's a hunter. She wants to aim down the sight. She wants to look for that precise shot and take you out. Okay, we understand that. But in no world can you justify that take aim does more damage, excuse me, than Dragon Blade. Dragon Blade, one swing at the closest range, at the most lethal place Genji can be in, does 110 damage, but take aim from a safe distance across the map can drop 2 crossbolts on you that do almost 300 damage with almost no downtime for this character. So I don't want to hear any bullshit about, you know, how Blizzard's balance philosophy works and shit, because this shit in no world makes any sense. And I am a big Freya enjoyer. I'm a big Freya defender, but even I cannot defend the whole 130 damage into the body. I believe even Pharah doesn't do that much damage, or Junkrat do that much damage with their, you know, respective projectile shots into the face. Now, Freya does come with 225 HP, and she does have really bad quote-unquote dueling potential once you close the distance on her. It's actually really not that hard to duel her. I don't know. I personally never really struggled with dueling with her. I've played a lot of characters into her, and I've played against some very good Freya players that, yes, they can be really, really terrifying, but the character's left click, like once you close the distance on her, she can't really use taking. Her left click is just really, really awkward. It's just there for, like, you know, some extra pressure and the utility with Frostbolt's perk and all that type of stuff. So Freya, the starting point is we don't need to do anything brash. We don't need to do anything crazy. Again, the criteria is that this is a high skill ceiling, high skill floor character. Let's just start a little bit slow and easy. Let's bring take aim down to about 110 to 120 damage, and let's see how Freya scales according to that and go from there. Maybe you can reduce the impact damage that hits when you land a headshot, because there is an impact damage initially when you shoot people in the head, and then the explosion afterwards. And Freya will still be fine because, you know, in ranked at least, a lot of Mercy players just play with Freya, and Freya is actually very good with Mercy as well. Mercy really likes having a Freya as well. So it's just one of those things where you'll get your breakpoints back and it'll be really strong, but the character will fall in line with the rest of the game, right? She's in a very powerful spot right now. She's instantly into the meta at the highest levels of play, even at tournament play, OWCS. She's seeing a lot of play right now. She's seeing a lot of play with Sojourn, with Genji. She's seeing play, you know, here and there on a lot of different maps. A lot of play on Circuit Royale. Very easy to figure out that Freya is going to be very good there. So, you know, I think that's the starting point for Freya. And then, honestly, like, they don't really need to nerf anything else about this character. Like, updraft and quick dashes are literally just mobility, right? And the character doesn't have any consistent basis to duel anything that closes the distance on her. Sure, you could argue that we could also nerf quick dash just a little bit, where we push it back to 4 or 4.5 seconds, but that could also really hurt the overall flow of her kit. I'm open-minded to all of this, but I don't think a character that has such a high skill ceiling and floor should ever be in a position where they're absolute garbage, right? I understand that, like, Blizzard has shifted their philosophy for Sojourn in regard to this too, because Sojourn is also kind of a character that has a high skill ceiling, and, like, not every Bob, Dick, and Joe can pick her up and dominate lobbies in gold or plat or, you know, silver, like all that type of stuff, because that's where, you know, 90% of the population is for Overwatch, right? So I understand that they are thinking about both sides here. So at least when it comes specifically to Freya, I would really like it if they just touch the damage on take aim, the impact damage on its headshot, and then if she's still a little bit too strong, then we can make quick dash a little bit, you know, awkward to use, so that there's a little bit more you know, downtime in the character's kit. Now, as for her perks, discussing her perks, you know, personally, I think Tracking Instinct is useless, and I do not understand people that keep taking it. You literally do not need that thing. And Frostbolts is 10 times better, especially for bullying tanks. It's very, very good. It's also really good in some close range duels. Allows you a bit more time to move or escape or line up shots better. So I always take Frostbolts. When it comes to our majors, Ready to Hunt is legit the best one. Relentless Barrage sounds good on paper, but the problem is that the rev draw crossbow itself is kind of just like its primary fire is just really inconsistent, and even like if you move the crossbow even just a little bit, the way the bolts just spread like crazy. They've tried to like deal with this problem, but it's just one of those things where they can't deal with it. Like it's the mechanic of the crossbow. They would have to giga buff and super tighten the spread to the point it's nearly a hit scan for it to be consistent. But I'm okay with rev draw being the weak one, because again, the fantasy of this hero is actually being the huntress, right, and taking aim, literally, wink wink. So that's why I think, like, for Freya, I would really like to see take aim being nerfed. If more is needed, go for quick dash. But funnily enough, this character is actually probably one of the healthiest characters they've made since Ana, so they literally don't need to do that much with her. That's how good design wise she is. And also, they did not over bloat her kit. Like the fact that like arguably only one real quote unquote ability or mechanic in the character's kit is what's like overtuned, it's not that bad. Like, you know, quick dash, updraft, rev draw, crossbow, bowler shot, her passives and her perks, like they're all relatively fine, you know, again, in my opinion. So again, really hoping to see that type of you know, nerf pulling through for Freya. Aside that, I do want to praise Blizzard that, like I said, this is a very well made character. Funnily enough, I kind of wish she did have a little bit of an overbloated kit, because, you know, projectile DPS never gets anything nice, and I'm a little bit biased because, you know, all my favorite heroes are in projectile DPS, and Freya's already in my top 3 most played for this season. So, you know, that's why I think Freya could get the nerfs. But I want to ask you guys, what do you guys think Freya needs a nerf in? Do you think she needs more? Do you think, like, you know, where else can they take her direction? I would love to hear your thoughts and comments down below, because I'm sure even you must have been traumatized by Freya's gameplay loop in your game. So let me know how it's going. Let me know your rank, how it's going. No elitism here. I just want to hear everybody's different experiences and how it's been going. And also, if you are a Freya player, you know, what's your thoughts on the state of Freya right now? Because, you know, I play Freya a lot. I absolutely adore her, but even I can die, okay, she's a little bit overtuned, you know, maybe not this much, maybe not this much is needed, right? This is a little bit silly. So with that being said, everybody, I will see you in the next video.